President Donald Trump finally signs the peace agreement, which has sent gas prices on a nationwide level under $4, sitting at $3.99, which is helpful. But we're also going to ask whether or not the new Federal Reserve chairman is helpful to mom and pop. Because after they spoke yesterday, guys, essentially the market absolutely pumped and mortgage rates sank, which to me further demonstrates we're on the edge of economic depression, not recession. We've been in recession this entire time, and quantitative easing and inflation has been keeping us out of recession. If it hasn't, then why has it been here exactly? Now we're going to start this video listening to Kevin Warsh talk to the media after his first meeting as Federal Reserve Chairman. Now he's going to talk about how he is not going to cut interest rates and how he's going to end market guidance. Now, after we listen to that video, we're going to get the reaction from President Donald Trump and Peter Schiff. But I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about Kevin Warsh. A lot of people are saying we have someone that finally understands how to beat inflation. We have someone that's going to make big changes that's honest. So again, you guys, I'm interested to know what you think.
So I think financial markets perform best when they react to incoming data. I think the financial markets work less efficiently when they ask a question, how will the Federal Reserve react to that incoming information? The more that markets are paying attention to what's happening in the real economy, deciding what's good data and what's less good data, the more financial markets can price what they believe is the most likely and what are the tail risks. Financial market prices are probably the most important source of information to guide central bankers. But when all the financial markets are doing is reflecting back what we've said, then we're taking the most important source of information and we're being blind to it. I'd like us to create a system where those blinders come off, where markets are following data that they efficiently think is reliable, and they'll be watching data, we'll be watching data. They'll come with better information through market prices to us. We can make more informed decisions. But ultimately, the goal that I said at the outset, deliver on the price stability objective that Congress told us to do, and that we've got to get in the business of doing.
Yeah, if I could take you in the meeting a little bit. So your first meeting, the board members seem fairly hawkish when you listen to, in general, when you listen to what they're saying. Was there any discussion of a rate cut going forward today?
There was one proposal on the table. There was no discussion of any other proposals. The discussion on that proposal, I would say, was quite limited. The group was unanimous and unambiguous on it. It has been the practice of this central bank and others to have a range of alternatives. Today we had one. I thought it furthered discussion, deepened it, and made it clear what we needed to do and how we need to deliver. I wouldn't prejudge what happens in the future, but there was only one big subject for us. We took it on. We had a good family fight on it for a couple of days, and we ended up, I think, in a better place.
So y'all heard him, no rate cut. In fact, the market thinks that he's going to hike interest rates, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. But obviously, that's not what President Donald Trump wanted to hear. So let's get his reaction now.
The Fed decision, they held rates today. It's
all right. Whatever.
And it looks like they might need to raise them later this year if not there. Do you have any?
Well, it could happen. I mean, it's hard to believe. It just keeps the country down, so it's so unusual. But we have a very good guy over there now, so I'm guided by what he wants. Was this his first time? Yeah, I don't know. I saw a statement that just came out.
But honestly, I would say the more important thing is to get control of the inflation and deficit spending. Let me know what you guys think. In fact, listen to what Peter Schiff has to say. Warsh said inflation is a choice. It's the choice the Fed made to spare politicians from having to slash government spending and to bail out investors and homeowners by propping up the price of their assets. So if the Fed chooses to end inflation, prepare for the consequences, which essentially he's saying is deflation. And in that situation, a deflation would probably usher in finally an economic depression. And if we get an economic depression, even a confirmed recession, odds are they're going to start cutting interest rates And unfortunately, they're probably going to start quantitative easing, which honestly is going to make everything far more worse. But the interesting thing to look at here is how the market does believe that we're in store for an interest rate hike. And then look at how the market reacts after. This is CME Fed Watch now saying there's a 68% chance of a rate hike in September. It was in December a couple days ago, so they moved it up to September. And it's not just a quarter basis point rate hike. There's a 16% chance that is a 50 basis point rate hike, guys, and a 51% chance that it's a quarter basis point rate hike. And how does the market react? The 10-year Treasury, which tracks residential mortgage rates, and we'll see residential mortgage rates here in a second, somehow plummets. It crashes down, almost going down as far as 7 basis points. But the interesting thing also is that's just getting back to where it was yesterday, because it spiked yesterday. Now it's plummeting downward, which is an extremely violent whiplash. So if you're in the mortgage business, you're hurting right now and you don't know what to say and do. Now, as of the recording of this video, conventional has dropped down 4 basis points, sitting at 6.58%. You guys also see highlighted in yellow FHA. FHA is sitting almost under 6% at 6.15%. Now, the only reason, for the sake of argument, that makes conventional better, because you see the interest rate is higher, is in certain situations, it does not come with mortgage insurance, which is basically an additional fee to carry the loan. Whereas FHA mortgages always have mortgage insurance, except after 11 years if you have a 10% down payment to purchase the home. Now, I want to go over something that's going to happen if interest rates go down, which is also a huge warning. If you guys already own a house or a mortgage, you do not want to necessarily refinance your house, because if you do, you start the entire debt trap all over again. And regardless, refinance applications you guys see here in blue is down. But look at what happens when interest rates go down. You guys see in blue, when interest rates go down, which is in orange, so they're going down here, look at what happens to demand. Demand absolutely skyrockets. And that's not a good thing, because interest rates have barely moved. So if you do have a mortgage, or you plan on getting a mortgage, I have to explain this to you so you don't become a victim of a mortgage, which most Americans are. You're looking at a $400,000 loan with yesterday's interest rates at 6.62% over 30 years. And you see the number highlighted above my head, $521,000. That's the amount of interest you're going to pay back on that mortgage. So you pay back more than you borrow. That's why lenders do not want you to pay off your loan early. In fact, they want you to keep refinancing, because look at the amortization schedule on the left now. All of the rows highlighted in red is how much interest you pay for that year. So year one, you guys pay back $26,000 in interest, whereas in year 5, you pay a little bit less at $25,000 per interest. So the first few years of your mortgage is way loaded with mortgage interest. So it's really important that if you want to get out from this trap, you do it sooner rather than later. Now, as an example, if you pay down your loan to $375,000, you would save all of this interest highlighted in red, because you would be paying your loan down to the end of year 5 of the amortization schedule. Now, if it took you to year 3, when your loan amount was $385,000 and you paid it down to $374,000, then you would save these 3 tiers of interest, which would essentially be $75,000. In other words, you guys, you can save a lot of interest if you pay extra money towards your principal in the beginning. But if you refinance, you start this entire trap all over again. And the reality is, you guys, is more than likely interest rates are not going to come down absent a recession and or inflation and quantitative easing. And if you look at quantitative easing or inflation as a recession preventer, then essentially we've been in recession this whole time, or they've been preventing us out of recession this whole time. So in other words, you guys, QE is recession. And if QE is recession and they've been doing QE this whole time, then that means we've been in recession this entire time. But because of the inflation, they've kept the labor market, I guess, propped up, but they've stolen our wealth and our purchasing power. And honestly, it's probably going to get a lot worse. Now we're going to listen to a video from a CEO at Goldman Sachs brag about how they got $1 trillion worth of M&As, which is mergers and acquisitions. The important thing to pay attention to with these mergers and acquisitions, essentially it's historic highs. Also, it essentially prevents bankruptcy. So it's hiding the underlying turmoil. So when you're listening to this guy, listen to him brag about the $1 trillion and then listen to him try to defend how much commission and bonus they make. I love that part of the video because it really shows that this guy's just a slick talking wolf. And the fact of the matter is all of these private equity and private companies' commissions and bonuses have killed our childhood establishments like Toys R Us and Pizza Hut. Listen to this guy.
That you would achieve that at the start of this year when war was breaking out, trade issues were still ongoing. We had this AI disruption. I don't know if you would have believed me. Are you surprised at just how robust this year has been for deal making?
I think it certainly exceeded expectations. Coming into the year, we thought it would be an up year. It's always hard to predict how the year will play out. When we came out of 2021, I didn't expect any time in the near future to exceed the volumes we saw. I remember the SPAC wave, and it was a big corporate and private equity M&A year. But we really seen an extraordinary amount, particularly on the corporate side. Large corporate transactions, you see over $100 billion in one transaction this year. And obviously, as you say, AI is driving extraordinary amount of corporate activity.
Is that just what? Are they trying to get ahead while the regulatory environment feels good? Because you could make the argument that because markets, they've been at all-time highs, but considering all the uncertainty, maybe it's a time to pause and not get that done. So what gave CEOs the confidence to ink deals?
So I'd say it's not just CEOs, it's boards thinking in decades, not in one particular year. This is not an issue of saying, I need to rush to get something done. We saw real strategic thinking and repositioning coming out of COVID. As the markets ramped, as equity markets and debt markets recovered, as regulatory environments changed, large transactions got done. But it's all about strategic thinking, not for the next year, but for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, particularly with AI, which obviously is a existential impact on lots of corporations and markets. You have to think in decades, not in days.
By the way, are we living in the salad days of this boom right now? Because it's not just $1 trillion, I imagine, in total deals. You're making fees on this that aren't at a discount, right?
Look, we don't think about fees. We think about serving clients. Obviously, an increase in M&A activity is good for M&A practitioners. It's been good, and you've seen our results. But again, we don't focus year to year. We don't focus quarter to quarter on fees. We focus on client service. We focus on long-term client relationships, which is why we think we've been in an advantaged position in terms of our market share. Clients may not do transactions for decades. We have many clients that we invest in for decades who then decide to do something important. And we've invested in years in the relationship, a trusted relationship, and that's why we get hired. But yes, it's good for M&A practitioners, but again, we really would think about the client relationship.
So normally that would be a good thing and would demonstrate some turmoil finally happening and potentially liquidity drying up. But I want to warn you guys, we have a Federal Reserve that could potentially try to turn us into either Canada or Japan. Because don't forget this, it's going to be really hard to have a liquidity crisis. And Larry Fink reminds us that Americans' pensions and saving accounts can fund the trillions of dollars required for AI data centers. Protect your wealth now. They're saying that they're going to spend $7 trillion on AI infrastructure by 2030, half of which could be funded by retirement funds. And already you guys see the rise. The gray is 2010, the orange is 2026, the left is private equity, the right is all private markets. Look at the growth, guys. Look at the growth. It essentially is doubling up in about 10 years, meaning it's possible that they try to take our retirement funds in order to continue to prevent us from going into economic depression. And it's not just them stealing our retirement funds. We also have an administration and government that's spending recklessly. And obviously, when I say recklessly, I mean the government spending money it doesn't have that they're hoping our children are going to pay. And so far for the fiscal year, we're over $1 trillion. We're at $1.24 trillion, and the fiscal year isn't even over. That's just the fiscal debt being added to this number right here, which is $39.2 trillion. So when you realize they got $10 to $20 trillion in retirement and a government that's willing to do this, which is essentially purchase 10% of Intel's shares, a private company, essentially bailing them out, then I think it's really important to think about, is our government and the Federal Reserve just going to push us so high into debt that we become exactly like Canada and Japan? And the answer to that question is yes, unless you and I do something about it and remind them about the US Constitution. And the thing is, guys, we are in this together, and I'm already fighting. In fact, we already made the blueprint. So if you want to put a stop to this, why we still can, then I'm going to need you guys to go to realestatemindset.org, and I'm going to need you guys to join the fight. And I am not joking about that. We are making so much progress, but we're only a couple people, which is why I need you guys. So go to my website, you take these 2 advocacy books. The first one's going to teach you how to use the camera and smash these people. The second one is going to teach you how to use paperwork and own them. And if you scroll down here, you got our Substack articles. You can go and you can check that out, as well as multiple other pages with additional empowering information like how to become a citizen journalist, protesting your property value, repealing property taxes altogether, how to purchase a home, starting an email campaign to make a difference. Either way, I want you guys to go there, because I'm going to tell you guys one more time, I cannot do this without you. I don't want to do this without you. In fact, all of the growth in this channel and me as an individual is heavily because of you. And so now I'm telling you this, please, you guys, learn to fight. I'm going to teach you how. And other than that, if you guys are just trying to figure out what's going on in this economy, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.